All right, now eNCA's Moloko Moloto is tracking that story for us. He joins us now live from the Constitutional Court. Moloko, that was just a snippet of the judgment itself, the decision of the court itself, but take us through some of the reasons.
Well, the Constitutional Court did not necessarily go deep into the reasons. Of course, we're still going to get the written judgment. Perhaps it might just go deeper into the reasons behind that. But indeed, it's official that the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the land, has given Nomgcobo Jiba as well as Lawrence Mrwebi the lifeline. They will remain as advocates. Basically, the Constitutional Court dismissed that application that was made by the General Counsel of the Bar of South Africa that sought to overturn the Supreme Court of Appeal judgment that had ruled in favor of Nomgcobo Jiba and Lawrence Mrwebi. So what it means, therefore, Michelle, is that the process, actually, in the words of Zola Majavu, who was representing Nomgcobo Jiba, this is the beginning of another process. Because you would remember that earlier this year, the president actually fired those two individuals, Nomgcobo Jiba as well as Lawrence Mrwebi, on the recommendations of the Mokgoro Commission of Inquiry. So what then it means is that because the Constitutional Court found that these two remain advocates, I'm really not too sure whether it would mean that the Constitutional Court has absolved the mistakes that were made by these individuals. Because you would remember that in as much as the Supreme Court of Appeal had said that these two should remain as advocates, there were some acknowledgements which even Jiba himself as well as Mrwebi had admitted that they did make mistakes. In some instances, they would even say that it is because of they relied on legal opinion. So according to Majabu, when the matter first went to the High Court, in the Pretoria High Court, it should have actually, the bar should have actually instituted a process to discipline the two. So it jumped that particular step and went to court. So from the legal point of view, the two individuals are still intact. But as for their ability to do their work in terms of their competence level, perhaps that is another matter that's still going to be debated, because remember, as much as the president has also said that he's firing them, that decision by the president still needs to be ratified by Parliament. So before Parliament, certainly a whole lot of issues are still going to be debated. But Zola Majavu says his client is quite emotional at this, and by the way Majavu, although he did not necessarily say this is what they are going to do now, is that they are going to wait for the Parliament process to unfold, and then they will decide whether they are taking the Mokgoro recommendations on judicial review. But let's listen to Zola Majavu as he was speaking to journalists earlier.
She's emotional, and when I spoke to her, she was too distraught to talk. All she said in her mother tongue was "Iqamagu livumile." I can't translate it because I'll spoil it, but it simply means that she had accepted what had become. It is well with her soul, but she was basically thanking her ancestors. It's been a 4-year-long journey. And to be fair to my client, and I'm going to ask you to just bear with me when I paint you the picture so that you can understand why she feels the way she does, and I'll try not to take too much of your time. I propose to give you basic objective facts which you are more than at liberty to verify independent. In fact, I challenge you to do so as members of the Fourth Estate and opinion shapers. This case started in April 2015, emanating from 3 separate judicial criticisms. As a result of that, the GCB itself approached, rather the NPA approached the GCB to say, in the face of these judicial criticisms, as a custos morum of the profession, please do something. The GCB undertook to bring an application for their striking out on condition that the NPA pays and that agreement was reached. You were there, Mr. Stirman, at the inquiry. That was not disputed, even by the CEO of the NPA. Be that as it may, we went before Justices Lekhodi and Hughes. And one of the points that we took on her behalf was that the correct approach, in our view, was that the Section 12(6) inquiry would have been the appropriate route. However, the judges disagreed with our contention, and the court assumed its disciplinary role. She was facing 3 separate counts of criticisms. Before Judges Lekhodi and Hughes, she was found guilty, and I'm using the language very loosely to simplify it for the viewers out there, guilty on 1 count, and the court found that in relation to the other 2 counts, no misconduct against her was proven. But the court in the end felt that on that 1 count, in relation to how she handled the Mluli case, she needed to be struck off the roll. Aggrieved by that decision, we were instructed to bring an application for leave to appeal, which was granted. We then went to the SCA as the appellants on her behalf. At the SCA, we were hoping to argue against this 1 count against which she was found to have misconducted herself. But at the end, the SCA found that we should actually re-argue all 3 criticisms. The SCA ventilated every single one of them. And in the end, the majority found that the GCB had not proved any misconduct against Advocate Jiba.
And of course, that was some reaction there following that judgment by Nomgcobo Jiba's advocate, Zola Majavu. Before we let you go, Moloko, are we still waiting for other reaction to this ruling, perhaps from Lawrence Mrwebi himself and from the General Counsel of the Bar as well?
Well, unfortunately, Lawrence Mrwebi as well as Nomgcobo Jiba personally were not in court. They were represented by their lawyers, and of course, also the applicants were represented by their lawyers. But I must admit, Michelle, that none of us as media people managed to speak to the other guys, because immediately after judgment was handed down, we all flocked to Zola Majavu, who was representing Nomgcobo Jiba for obvious reasons, because at the time she was the most senior personnel in the NPA, and after we were done with her, everybody else had left. But of course, we will continue to look for them, and hopefully they will give us their response as to whether they still have any recourse. But I doubt, because this is the apex court. In terms of the legal processes, this is possibly the end.
All right, well, thanks very much for that update. My colleague Moloko Moloto live to us there from the Constitutional Court on one of our breaking news stories this morning, and that former prosecuting officials, Nomgcobo Jiba and Lawrence Mrwebi, remaining advocates. The Constitutional Court just a short while ago this morning dismissing an application by the General Counsel of the Bar to strike them off the roll.